Hello, hello, and welcome aboard the 4 to 7 pod. I'm Chris, he's Jerry. Welcome to the show. Just get the housekeeping out of the way before we dive into it. Make sure that you are following us at our social medias at the ticker down below. Particularly, those are our Twitter handles, but the 4 to 7 pod and the MI pod 69. Those are our handles on all social medias. So make sure you're following us. Make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel. This is episode 4, technically. I've kind of
Yeah.
kind of lost count because we kind of split them up, and the last episode we recorded wasn't even supposed to be an episode, but it kind of just became one. But yeah, this is episode 4 of 4 to 7. We're 10-ish games into the season. I think both respective squads, as we're recording, the Yankees and the Mets, are 11 games into the season. So if my math is correct, that means we're about a 16th of the way through the 2025 season. So what better time to check in and recap the first couple of weeks of the season. So I guess we can start out on the 4 train with the Yankees. So the Yankees are off to a 6-5 start. They opened the season with a sweep against the Milwaukee Brewers, where the torpedo bats, which you now hear so much about, that is where they were first. Gained their notoriety in that series. I'll just not say that word again. But yeah, and they the Brewers series put the torpedo bats on the map. Nestor Cortez in particular, he did his part to apologize for blowing Game 1 of the World Series, even though he should have never been put in the game.
I gotta say, giving a standing ovation after he walks off the mound after that is one of the coldest things I've ever seen. And also very funny too, because and I'm not even saying this like I'm bagging on y'all. Like that's like, I mean, I can't say if a similar thing happened to us and then Met fans did that at Citi Field that I wouldn't be right there with them. I just thought it was very funny.
Oh yeah, no, that's hilarious. So Nestor Cortez,
you know what time it is.
Yeah, Nestor Cortez puts us on puts the torpedo bats on the map. Never mind the fact other teams are using them. Never mind the fact that they are indeed legal. MLB is promoting it themselves, so they wouldn't be doing that if it was cheating.
Fantasy baseball now, they put like little icons for guys that are using torpedo bats. Like, hey, just want you guys to know.
That's right. On Yahoo. On Yahoo they have the little torpedo bat icon next to torpedo bat users. Like Lindor, Ellie De La Cruz, Chisholm, Ryan Jeffers. The torpedo bat. I mean, Ryan Jeffers is a prime example that the torpedo bat just doesn't magically make you good.
Listen, I'm in one of Kev's leagues, and Ryan Jeffers is my catcher. So, not a great time.
Yeah, that's pretty unfortunate. Luckily, catcher is a pretty unimportant position, but with it being, I'm assuming that's a dynasty league. So
yeah,
I'm sure that the pickings are even more slim than they usually are.
I'm waiting for Moises Ballesteros to come up to take his spot. That's
at least you got someone. You got someone waiting in the wings.
The torpedo bats is just that. I mean, nobody ever said anything. It was on the books, so. There's no reason to complain about. There's other teams that are using it. So, until MLB says no, we're outlawing this. What's the point? Like that. It's like it happened to break it away where, and I think the stat was, over the first 5 or 6 games, the Yankees faced more sub 90 mile per hour fastballs than anyone else by an enormous margin. So it's like, yeah, they got the torpedo bats and they were getting grooved.
I would say Yeah, I would say the grooving of the pitches and the slow fastballs probably has a lot more to do with that than the torpedo bats, if we're being honest. I could see them getting outlawed if if Jazz Chisholm has too much fun this year or hits too many home runs, I could see them, saying let's put a stop to this. Especially if they get pressure from, some outside forces, I could definitely see that happening. Or if just, you just see a lot of anomalies like Anthony Volpe, like hits like 35, 40 home runs. I could see them being like, all right, like this is a little ridiculous. Or, if Ryan Jeffers does suddenly become good, but
Yeah.
I don't think anyone particularly cares too much about him. I mean, shit, the torpedo. I mean, maybe that's what Francisco Lindor was missing to be productive in the month of April. The Mets fan base does not hate him in the first month of the year.
All right, that's enough. That's enough.
Right.
That's enough.
Put the gun down.
No, my lone issue with this, and I'm not the first person to come up with this take. So I like just to get that clear, but all of a sudden everyone understands the science of bats the way everyone magically understood air pressure with footballs 10 years ago. It's like, no, 3 weeks ago, nobody thought about the science of bats because it was never an issue. Even the only time we cared about what material went into a bat and the specifics of it is when a guy gets caught for a cork bat, which is what, once a decade? Like,
yeah,
we talk about it for a week and that's it. Like,
yeah. Like, I couldn't tell you the last time a cork bat happened. I mean, the last one I really remember that everyone really remembers was when Sammy Sosa got caught with it.
Right.
I think in the the early 2000s. I'm sure there was probably like maybe one or two incidents since then where someone had a corked bat, and it was kind of just a flash in the pan. But
the one thing I can go about that is so my favorite player growing up was Gary Sheffield, and my dad won a bat. Like, auctions happen down here all the time. My dad won a Gary Sheffield bat at I'll have to go find it. I know it's around here somewhere at an auction. It took me till I was about 22 years old, and I forget how much that bat weighed, but it's like 36, 38 ounces at least. It took me till I was at least 22 years old to be able to do
the Sheffield shuffle
at full speed.
Yeah.
Granted, he's a much stronger human being than I'll ever be. I don't know how he did it. That's
just crazy though. Just how much just how much those bats weigh and how he was just able to move it so quickly. And it he would do that, and then as he was doing that, step into his swing. Yeah. Or as he's doing that, he's seeing a pitch and deciding whether or not he's going to swing at it. Yeah. And he did it extremely well. It's just
I'm going Oppo here.
Sheffield was always one of my favorites to watch, mainly, and 90% of that was because of his batting stance.
Yeah, it's
I'm trying to imagine him with a torpedo bat now.
Oh.
That probably would have broken. Gary Sheffield with a torpedo bat probably would have broken the league.
Oh, the crazy thing is you still see him every once in a while now. It's because I think he grew up in Tampa. I think he still has a house there, and they're like, oh, he just showed up to this public league softball game the other night, and he's smoking a cigar. He's in his 50s now, still just and hitting something that is immediately out of the sight of the camera within a second and a half. He's still got it.
Yeah, shit. I would buy him a cigar to watch him do that.
Oh,
it's probably pretty cool.
Imagine Gary Sheffield just shows up to your beer league game. That would rule.
Oh man. Yeah, that would be unreal.
You got a pinch hitter. No, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm actually done. My work is done here. I have far more important things to do. I have to wake up for my real job tomorrow, but you got this, Gary.
It's all yours, Ken.
Yeah, but back to the Yankees. So, obviously torpedo bats kind of tie into them because they're kind of the main focus of the Torpedo Bats has been the Yankees, and all the memes and everything has been surrounding them. But after after that opening series against Milwaukee, where they scored like 30 runs in 3 games, the Torpedo Bats did cool down a little bit against the Diamondbacks. The D-backs took 2 out of 3 in that series. Particularly, they took the first 2. Yankees were able to scratch out the rubber match of that. Then the Yankees came down here to Pittsburgh, they came down and out to Pittsburgh for the Pirates home opening series, and what a time that was. I was at the games on Friday and Saturday. They won both of those games. They won 10-4. So the Torpedo Bats woke up again, even though in the first game, it really wasn't until like garbage time that Aaron Judge hit a home run. Like that, they really weren't. That first game, they really weren't hitting home runs. They were just, they were just hitting the shit out of Mitch Keller, and then they almost come back and win the game on Sunday. And a lot of Trent Grisham really was the hero of that. Really was the hero of that series. Hence, as you can see, my display name, which is a fact. But yeah, Trent Grisham was the hero of that series. He had 2 home runs on Saturday, and then he had the game tying hit on the Sunday game, but then they were unable to finish the job there. When you're giving up hits and RBIs to Isaiah Kiner-Falefa and Tommy Pham, you don't deserve to win that game. And then since then, they've made the trek up north to Detroit, where it has not been it hasn't been particularly fun playing Detroit so far. Today they were shut out 5-0 by Tariq Skubal. And then yesterday, they lost that game 6-2. A pretty poor showing from Carlos Rodon in that one. Early takeaways for me, I would say, is as far as the hitting goes, I think our lineup, and part of it probably has to do with the Torpedo Bats. I think the lineup is performing better than I expected. The pitching as a whole is a lot less of a strength than I think me and a lot of Yankee fans perceived that it would be going into the season. I know we lost Cole before the season started, but I do still feel like starting pitching was perceived to be like a strength for the team. You think and Clark Schmidt's out too, so they're still not operating at 100% by any means. But aside from Max Fried, you really haven't gotten much. You haven't really gotten much of anything from anyone. Rodon pitched well in the opener. Has not pitched particularly well since then. Carlos Carrasco is Carlos Carrasco. Marcus Stroman, you know pretty much what you're getting from him, and that's not particularly good either. I would also say that the bullpen has been a little, dare I say, on the disappointing side. Now I know that Devin Williams did miss a few games because he was on paternity leave, so they were without Devin Williams for a few games. But I do feel like, not that the Yankees bullpen sucks by any means. It's still a pretty good bullpen, but I think that maybe it needs a little bit more depth, and especially if we're not getting length out of our starting pitchers. That's going to be a problem too. And, I think that we need to have a little bit more of a solution to our bullpen than constantly signing and DFAing and then re-signing Adam Ottavino.
Well, maybe the one really bad loss in the Arizona series for you guys, you hit Corbin Burns. Like that, that right there should be we hit a Cy Young winner. He was, the prize pitching Frazier of the offseason. He didn't even finish the 4th inning. Like, this should be a game we win. And then they kind of handed it right back to him in the 8th inning. So that I don't think you guys were wrong to say that pitching was going to be the strength, because I think you count on Rodon getting a little bit more of a bounce this year. I think expecting Will Warren to settle in a little bit better. You expect Schmidt to settle in once he's healthy. Like, I don't think that was a crazy thing to think. As it is with any bullpen, it's such a variance year to year. I mean, outside of one guy, even the very best closers, it can just go at any point. And then that doesn't account for setup guys. That can be all over the map. So that might be the one thing. And again, we're 11 games in. This could settle in 2 months' time. But if there's one thing that I'm going to look at that the Yankees might already need to be addressing at the trade deadline, if presuming they're still in the mix in the AL East at that point, I'm guessing they're probably going to be looking for a reliever, or I would have to guess.
Yeah, I would probably agree with that. Reliever should be, close to the top of top of the list as far as needs go, assuming we are going to be assuming that we are going to be buyers and that we're going to be in an adding mode. When that time comes and as that time approaches, we saw last year the Marlins basically waved the white flag on May 1st. So I don't know if maybe there's a team that decides early on, okay, like we're out of it. This guy, and maybe they have someone who's, they feel like their value will never be higher. And, it's just time to part ways now. So, I would say even maybe before the trade deadline, I wouldn't necessarily expect anyone to be selling off on like, May 1st again, but maybe it could happen a little earlier than we think.
And the trouble is, like the Marlins last year were kind of an exception for this discussion, because that team was coming off a playoff appearance, and then everything that could go wrong did, but there was talent there.
Yeah.
And I assume this year, the teams that we're looking at who might be in that position this year are probably not the teams that are coming off a playoff appearance last year. I think most of the playoff teams from last year, at the very least, are probably still going to be in it in July. So if there's a team waving the white flag in mid-May, they're probably not going to have relievers that you want, because there's a reason they're in that position in the first place.
Yeah, probably not. I mean, if you look, if you're looking now, like at the standings, the only teams you can really think of that would be throwing in the towel early. The whole AL East is pretty, tight right now. I don't think the Rays are going to like give up early, because, they're pretty much they're just trying to make revenue to like stay afloat as a franchise and, get a new roof for Tropicana Field and, figure out what they're doing pretty much. So, I mean, the only teams I would really bank on selling early would probably be like the White Sox.
And like we said,
they really don't have anyone. Maybe the Pirates, but also like the Pirates are also like, they're in the business of, they're in the business of making money. I mean, everyone's in the business of making money, but
we'll get to them.
Yeah, we will get to them. Or like the Rockies, and, they really don't have anyone that comes to mind, the Rockies, and it's also so hard to evaluate their pitching because of the Coors Field effect. So
I know that there is one team down there in the NL East. I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but
I mean, that was the one team. That was the one other team I was thinking of that is also in that same tier as far as their record goes. I also picked that team to win the World Series on our prediction episode. So you're welcome. I think I might have done you a favor there.
Well,
it's actually
to steal from Zombieland. You don't give the Braves the double tap. You need like the quintuple tap. I'm joking here, but do I expect that the Braves are just finished right now? Absolutely not.
No, and they're definitely
on August 31st that they're dead.
Yeah, like maybe if the NL East could be a pretty tough division this year. I mean, obviously the Mets are off to a hot start, Phillies as well. And the Marlins and Nationals also don't look terrible. So maybe if by the trade deadline they just decide, okay, like this was an off year, we dug ourselves into too deep of a hole, then maybe they'll sell off some people on expiring contracts. But
the Marlins are always good for relievers. I mean, if nothing else, they always have those.
Yeah, that is true. But yeah, I'm not going to count on the Braves to go quietly into the night either. No. Although it is kind of hilarious how quickly pretty much all of my predictions that I made on the last show have kind of played out the opposite. Like I picked the Braves to win the World Series. They are tied for the worst record in the league. I picked Tanner Bybee to win Cy Young. He gets scratched from his opening day start because he see, there's a lot of, I don't know what it is, but
he woke up the next day with his stomach sounding like the Hot for Teacher intro.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but there seems to be a lot of stomachs league wide with sounding like that intro. Because I mean, you had the Mookie Betts thing when he went to Japan and lost like 20 pounds.
I was legitimately concerned for that. I'm like, okay,
yeah, that was legitimately concerning.
Whatever,
it also made it difficult to gauge for like fantasy purposes, like, and like it's like, okay, now you see like, all right, yeah, he's fine, he's Mookie Betts, and he's still, he still is who he is. But at first there, I was like, okay, like, like I had a discussion with one of my friends. It's like, okay, like, does this make you like think twice before drafting him in the first round? Like, because like at the time there really hadn't been like any real like updates on the situation either. So it's kind of like,
I honestly can't think of the last guy that had something like that happen leading into a season, because that is a tough thing to gauge, where it's like, all right, well, how much of that is he going to get back? Because, especially it's one thing if a guy, like if Yordan Alvarez had that happen, you're like, all right, well, he's still a big guy. He'll have his pop. It's like,
yeah,
Mookie's a skinny guy. Like,
and he lost like 20 pounds. Yeah, like that could be, he might have to hit up, he might have to hit up B-dubs with Cody Bellinger for a couple of months before he really gets his pop back.
It's like, to get that weight back. You see those stories and you're like, okay, guy ate the chorizo from AutoZone. Like, all right, he'll be back in a couple of days. It's like, Tanner Bybee goes to Chipotle before every start. Like, all right, caught a bad one. It's like 20 pounds though. That's
insane. Yeah. So you had Tanner Bybee with Chipotle Gate, and then I mean, Justin Verlander used to eat Taco Bell before every start, and that was never a problem. So I think Taco Bell might be the superior pregame food, particularly pregame Mexican food.
And then we saw what happened with Cody Bellinger this week in Detroit. And listen, I think it should have been obvious to Cody. It's not like Little Caesar's tagline has been wings, wings. It's been pizza, pizza.
Yeah. And it's, maybe those wings were hot, but not ready. I don't know.
That's very true.
But he also, he ate the wings, and then he was, he was out 2 games for the Pirates series with a stiff back. Now he's out with big back. But he
this is something I hadn't thought about with Cody Bellinger. Like we all know Cody Bellinger likes to enjoy the things away from the field. No judgment here, but you get the munchies. Like, who knows what Cody's ordering on a particular night, and next day you wake up with the bubble guts. Like, I mean, this might be a thing they have to monitor now.
Yeah, and then he apparently just did it again, like today. Like he just decided. I guess he I guess they maybe I got to get up to Detroit. Maybe that's where the good stuff's at, because he was doing whatever, and he decided again. You know what? I need more wings. That was actually nothing.
He posted round 2. Like, he really was he's that SpongeBob meme. Like, that was...
Want to see me do it again? Yeah. So I don't know. Hopefully he can get back to hopefully he can get these hopefully he can get these back problems and these food problems out of the way early, and he can get to hitting, which he has not been hitting the ball particularly well in the games that he has been playing in. But yeah, that's pretty much where the Yankees are at now. Things could be a lot worse. And a lot of people thought the season was over before it started anyway. I would say from here, I think you gotta. Detroit is a serious team. If there's one prediction I made that's not looking terrible, it's it is the Detroit Tigers are the real deal. Again, they were making these judgments after 11 games, but Detroit is a pretty serious team, but I think you got to go back there tomorrow. Obviously it'll probably be cold, shitty weather again, but you got to go there and you got to find a way to win a ball game against a really good pitcher in Jack Flaherty. And, and then you go from there, and then you got the Giants coming to visit, you got the Giants coming to visit for a weekend series. And, Giants have been off to a pretty good start. They've been off to a pretty good start themselves. So, it doesn't get particularly easier. So, you just got to, and you are facing good pitchers. Like, you're not just going to be facing the NL Central all the time. So, my main hope is that we see them start to, string some wins together and win some series against, some better competition.
I would say, though, for the Giants series that you have coming up over the weekend, you will see Logan Webb on Sunday, which fair enough, but you get Robbie Ray and Jordan Hicks in there. That kind of feels like those should be get-right games for your lineup. So, especially Robbie Ray being a left-hander in Yankee Stadium, that should work to your advantage. I know Jordan Hicks throws hard, but it's also he never knows where it's going. And then, as we said, we're recording this on Tuesday night with Fried versus Flaherty tomorrow, so I don't know when you guys will be seeing this. I know for the Yankees that when you give out a big money contract to a pitcher, you know why you're signing him. You're signing him for October. But when you're signing him to be your number one or number two, you're also asking him to win a game in a situation like this. The Arizona series didn't go the way you wanted. You've lost the first two, and Detroit's kind of a measuring stick series because I think a lot of smart Yankee fans realize, hey, this might be a team that we see in the playoffs, or at the very least, Detroit's going to be in there somewhere. Like, we got to see where we stack up with this team. You're facing Jack Flaherty. That's a guy that you had trouble, or not trouble, but like you saw in the World Series last year, been a generally reliable pitcher over the past season plus. You have Max Fried out there now as your number one to stop slides. And it's been 3 in a row. You're trying to put the Arizona series in your rearview mirror, and you're trying not to get swept. This is why you have those pitchers. Yeah, the playoff games are the reason, obviously. But you also got to make sure that, like, when you're in a funk, you have a guy that goes out there every fifth day, and it's, all right, well, we're not going to lose today. Or at the very least, we're going to have a chance to win this game because he's out there. I know DeGrom would be a comparison for that, but I always think of Johan Santana's first year with the Mets. There were ups and downs throughout that year. But every time you went out there, you're like, all right, we should probably win tonight. He's out there. And I think Fried's one of those guys where you should feel good no matter what lineup you're facing, what pitcher's on the other side. You should go, we have him and they don't.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, it's when he's out there, you got to feel good about it, and it's not like he's going up against Skubal, so it's not like you're going to lose a game 0-0 or 1-0 in that situation. Like, you should be able to get some run support. And, to your point, as far as obviously when you sign a pitcher to a deal like that, it is for what they're going to do or what you hope they do in the postseason. But you need that, you need them to stop the bleeding in situations like this to get there. So, so I'd say even, obviously it's only game 12 that we're going into, but, I think, every one game counts as one game. So, these games still do matter to a degree. So you got to, I'd say this is an important game and a good opportunity for the Yankees to, try and get right. I think Jordan Hicks, they should be able to hit pretty well. Robbie Ray is interesting to me because I feel like I feel like Robbie Ray is so hit or miss. Like there are times where he's out there and he looks terrible, and then there's other times where he looks like he's like unhittable. So, I guess it's kind of a matter of, which Robbie Ray shows up that day, but regardless, and hopefully the weather warms up in New York like a little bit over the weekend, but even if it doesn't, you got to be you got to be ready to you got to be ready to take those guys on, and you got to be ready to start to right the ship a little bit.
Like in my mind, like Robbie Ray is one of those perfect cases of he gave up an important postseason home run and it ruined him. Which statistically might be true. He's also made 10 appearances since the Yordan Alvarez home run. So not entirely fair. Like he got hurt, which I know the numbers since that game are not great for him, but also I don't think we've had fully healthy Robbie Ray since then. So hard to tell.
Yeah, I still am I'm still a believer in Robbie Ray. I think that I think if and when he gets back to his full health, plus the fact that he is in the he's in the probably the most pitcher friendly ballpark in all of baseball. I think that I think he'll be all right once he gets settled in. But the good news for us is that this weekend series is not in San Francisco. It is at Yankee Stadium. So hopefully they can take advantage of that, and hopefully we can make Robbie Ray look silly. And then then after that we play Kansas City, which is another obviously rematch of the division series. Another good like kind of measuring stick series. I mean, they're not off to the best start, but I expect them. Well, they're about they actually have the same record as us. So I would expect them to I expect them to be in the mix all year long too. And I'm sure the Guardians are gonna turn it on as well. And Twins I wouldn't count out either. So yeah, I think there's going to be a decent amount of competition in the American League. And you just gotta stack wins where you can, and just kind of stay afloat. Obviously, the AL East is airtight right now, where the Blue Jays and the Red Sox are playing each other. So right now is not the best time to drop games, because no matter what happens in those games, someone's going to win them. So you're gonna lose ground if you lose games. So get the ship right tomorrow, and then just take it from there. Do you have any
good pitching matchups for that Kansas City series? You avoid Cole Reagans, but you will see Seth Lugo, Michael Wacha, and Chris Bubik so far looks like he might be just the next arm they produce. I know he's kind of been on the periphery for them, but he's thrown 12 and 2/3 innings so far, and he's got an ERA under 1. So this is his age. It's going to be his age 28 season by the end of it. Might have just put it all together, and they might need that because, Cole Reagans was my preseason pick to win the Cy Young, and, you feel pretty good about him. Seth Lugo's probably will still be effective. I don't know if he'll be as good as he was last year. That's not to say he'll fall off the table, but he just might not hit those highs. And he's on the back end of his career. So you kind of start planning for that. Michael Wacha is on the back end of his career. And I know he was good last year, but I think Kansas City, you can rightfully start looking at, okay, we built a team that was good enough to make that turnaround last year and get to the playoffs. How can we keep this thing open for at least the next 3 to 5 years while Bobby Witt Jr. is this good? And you probably won't have Lugo and Wacha there by the end of that. So if Chris Bubik's just going to slide into that 2 spot and all of a sudden become someone where it's like, all right, we've got Reagans and Bubik. That's our 1-2 now. And we can roll into any series with that. That's huge for them.
Yeah, and then since Fried is pitching, the Wednesday game, and then I think Yankees are off on Thursday, so we should get Fried back for the Monday or Tuesday game in that.
It'll be the Tuesday game against Watkins. You'll get Carrasco, Fried, and Stroman for that.
Okay.
For a home away game.
Yeah, so you got to find, you got to find a way to take 2 out of 3. I guess it's a little, even though obviously there's a lot of injuries, I guess it is a little frustrating. It is a little frustrating that we're stuck resorting to like Cookie Carrasco. Meanwhile, the Blue Jays just picked up, they just picked like Easton Lucas out of their ass basically, and he threw like 5 1/3 innings of 1-run ball against the Red Sox. So I guess there's a degree of frustration there that but there really isn't like that that we can't just kind of like pull someone out of our ass like that. And Will Warren probably needs like a little bit more time to get it together. I'm still hopeful that he can I'm still hopeful he can be good this year, but I'm hopeful he can be good this year, but it might just take him a little more time. He might not hit the ground running as quickly as like Luis Gil did last year, and which is okay. Like that, that might be more of an outlier than what should be expected.
Yeah, I mean, you would feel that way. Even if your team, I don't want to say necessarily the Yankees because it's a different standard, but if your team was projected to be like a 80-win team, you would feel the same way about having a rookie in your rotation. It's all right. Well, let him get his feet underneath him. If he turns into anything this year, great. But let's just see that he can stick at the major league level. He can pitch a full major league season and he doesn't look out of place. If we can build on that, great. It's not the easiest thing in the world to come into a rotation where it's like, all right, hey, we need you to be great right now, or at least be good right now. That's, it's part of, everyone wants to play for the Yankees, but this is what comes with it. But
it still comes with the territory. Is that
it's an accelerated curve.
Yeah, you're expected to produce a lot sooner, and if you don't, then you're gonna hear about it. And I think that obviously his first 2 starts haven't been great, but I don't think it's I don't think it's been all bad. Like I think early on in the Diamondbacks game, I thought that the first couple of innings he looked pretty good, and he was pretty much going toe to toe with their lineup, and going toe to toe with Burns. Obviously, I think it was Ketel Marte. Eventually those, you have that many good players in the lineup. Eventually, like they're going to get the best of you. Especially as a rookie. Although as a rookie, it's interesting because they don't really have any film on you, and you kind of have an advantage because it's like they don't really have that much film on you at the big league level. But obviously you have scouting reports, and you have obviously they have scouting reports too, but they don't have as much film on you or as much of a feel for you at the big league level. So I feel like that kind of plays into an advantage for him too. So, I'm sure as he goes on and plays against more teams and faces more lineups, he'll kind of settle in. Obviously, his performance against the Pirates lineup on Sunday, not exactly encouraging, but I think the Pirates were bound to, wake up a little bit at some point, even if it was just for a day.
Also, I feel like I know as long as we're talking about new acquisitions, because we hit on Fried a little bit, but early thoughts on the Devin Williams experience. I mean, I know he had to miss a couple games because of paternity leave, but outside of that.
So my early thoughts, my initial reaction on opening day when he came in, like, because, they were going through opening day, like, they were sailing along, cruising along, and then like 9th inning comes, and all of a sudden it becomes an adventure. And my first thought, because I felt weird just seeing him come out to the mound to to start warming up, like with the beard, like that it gave me a very weird aura and like a weird feeling and like kind of a bad feeling in a way. And then he starts he starts getting hit hard, and obviously he locks it, he locks down, and he gets the save there. He hasn't really been in a whole lot of save situations early on, because I feel like a lot of the games we've been winning have been blowouts. So he hasn't had a whole lot of like high leverage situations for me to like truly judge him. But overall, I'd say, and if he were to blow that save on opening day, I would have said you need to bring back the facial hair policy ASAP. But I think that I think all in all, he's been I think he's been pretty solid. I don't really have any it's too early for me to really have any real qualms with him.
I mean, I think that opening day, getting out of that has to be a bigger hurdle to clear than I think most realize, because it's one of those things that I don't know if historically if it's true. I feel like there's probably a piece on this that proves how big of a deal it is. But if Devin Williams had gotten traded after that, which I don't think they traded him because he gave up the home run that lost the wild card series. I think there's a whole other set of issues going on with the Brewers. But if that was his last appearance, and then he gets traded to the Yankees, who are looking for him to be the guy, to be their lockdown ninth inning guy after what happened in the World Series, and then he does that becomes a thing.
Yeah.
Whereas, okay, well, he gave up 2 runs, but he got out of it. And nobody ever did it again. He might struggle later, but I think if he had blown that first game, then it's, oh, well, the Pete Homer's not out of his head yet. And then we have a problem. So
yeah, then it definitely becomes a thing. And on that, so it is good that he was able to navigate through that. And, since then, since then, I'd say he's been, I think in his limit, he's only made 3 appearances, but since then, I would say it's been more good than bad, I would say. So, that's definitely an encouraging sign, in that regard. To your point, though, as far as like, just the whole like psyche of pitchers go, one person who does seem to be kind of a prime example of that is Carlos Rodon. It seems like there is something mental with him, like, because in the game yesterday against the Tigers, he started the game out like he struck out like 5 batters through the first 2 innings, and then he would have had strikeout number 6, but it was like a borderline pitch that they called a ball instead. Probably should have been a strike, but they didn't call it. And then after that, he just fell apart. It just seems like one inconvenience or like one little thing goes wrong, and it seems like whatever success he had early on, like it seems like after one hint of adversity, he just folds.
And those are the most frustrating pitchers in the world, because it's like, man, like if you just do you're fine. If an outfielder drops a routine fly, like that can't, like that's supposed to be your test to be like, oh, you want to make this more difficult for me? Boom, right here, we're good. That's like that's supposed to be the mark of a good pitcher, because it kind of felt like, I mean, maybe not the best comp because I think Rodon's a better pitcher, but it felt like that was always that way for Oliver Perez, where it's like if he walked a guy with 2 out, here we go. It's like, double play ball gets put, here we go. Like you knew the signs every time. But it's like if he was pitching smoothly and he could give up like a home run or something, but if things didn't go out of order, you could get 7-8 innings out of him. But if things went a little off, that's when the blow-ups would happen.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, well, in closing, I guess, for the Yankees side of things, the 2009 Yankees also started 6-5. I read that somewhere. And their pitching looked kind of shitty early on that year too. And, that was a year where, the pitching was supposed to be a strength and ultimately ended up being one. So obviously, we got 150 something more games to go. So,
AJ Burnett then.
Yeah. Yeah, we did. Yeah, we did have AJ Burnett. We had AJ Burnett like before he started like shitting his pants.
Like, well, you've got your lefty number one, like that's lined up. But you've got your veteran lefty Rodon. I'm not saying Carlos Rodon is Andy Pettitte, but I'm just saying if we're doing A to B here,
any sort of comparisons. Well, I mean, I think at that point, I think CeCe would have been lefty number one.
That's what I'm saying. You have your lefty number one with Fried, like Fried is CeCe if we're matching this up.
We're comparing it. Yeah,
Rodon is Pettitte. I just don't know who AJ Burnett is.
Yeah, TBD.
I guess Roman because he's a right-hander, former Toronto guy. I guess.
Yeah, I guess that's
the best one, but
yeah, I guess that's the closest. I guess that's the closest parallel. So yeah,
people weren't crazy about the contract at the time. There's that.
So go salvage this game against the Tigers. Go take 2 out of 3 against the Giants, and then go beat the shit out of the Royals again, and we'll be fine. Let's move on though to the first place Mets, who are 8-3 through their first 11 games. You got Lindor hitting in April. The Mets have won their last six games in a row. I'm told that this is the only 6-game winning streak they've had all year. So what are your early takeaways, and how are you feeling 11 games in about what you've seen from the new look Mets with Juan Soto?
Lindor with an OPS in the 600s in April. That's nice, and I'm putting cases on everybody who they were like one of my good friends that I probably text during every single game. My friend Jesse gets on Lindor's ass every single year in April, and I'm like, he was starting to do it again. He was getting the ammunition ready. I'm like, you really didn't learn a damn thing from last year, did you? It's like, no, we'll figure it out. And I'm like, you're not going to give these guys any runway after what we just saw. But also, and I hate to keep beating a dead horse, although I actually do like beating this dead horse. Sal Licata's out here saying that Soto's not hitting like Soto, and he's now up to 308 on the season. And I'm just saying, if anyone's watching the show and you're in the greater metro New York area, if you see him out in public, make pelting people with tomatoes a thing again. I don't think we don't do enough shaming anymore, and he should be shamed for pretty much any opinion he has. Anyway, back to the good stuff. Maybe the most surprising thing so far is I mentioned in the season preview, I thought the bullpen was better constructed to start this year than certainly it was at the start of last year. I thought this was a better bullpen than the one that pitched Game 6 in LA. I did not think it was going to be as good as it's been to this point, and that's been one, a very pleasant surprise, and 2, much needed. Edwin Diaz has been fine. It's not always going to be smooth. He's not going to come in and, he's not going to be peak Rivera. Like that's, I think he could be 2022 Diaz in terms of he'll get most of the saves. I don't know if he'll ever be 2022 Diaz again in terms of you knew the game was over when he came in. In terms of like, okay, nobody's going to get on. Like you knew that year when Diaz came in, he's going to get these 3 guys. It doesn't matter who. I don't know if he'll ever be that again. But I think by and large, he's still going to be the guy that more often than not, maybe closer to what we saw last year, where it's, all right, he might wobble a little, but you're generally going to have your guy most of the time. It's been everyone else that's really been the most surprising thing, where Reed Garrett's been exceptional. And I think is a little refreshed after getting some time off from last year. He's looked really good. Jose Budos looked really good. That's been the 2 lefties. Danny Young did have one bad outing, but AJ Minner's looked great. No troubles there. Ryan Stanix looked great. We knew Max Kranick was going to be good. There was a lot of talk about him in spring training last year before he got hurt. That what we've seen from Max Kranick so far, they thought that was possible last year. They were very high on him, and it was one of those, all right, well, let's see it. And then he was exceptional during the spring, and it was, hey, maybe they were right. I did not think it was going to be retired 21 of the first 22 batters. I did not think it would be that great. And then maybe the most pleasant surprise has been Huáscar Brazoban, because we talked about multiple times, not just during the season, but then after the season, that at the deadline, they went out and got Stanek and Maton, and those were proven guys. Those were guys that had pitched in the playoffs. But Brazoban was having the best current year at the moment out of any of the relievers that they acquired. And you thought, okay, well, this guy knows how to pitch in the division. He's with the Marlins. He's had a good first couple of years with them. This should be easy enough. It's not like he's changing leagues. He's not changing divisions. This should be easy enough. And then it went so poorly last year that he wasn't even on the playoff roster. And I remember coming into this spring training, he's still around, but what can you really do? Like, he had that chance to shine last year and couldn't do anything with it. I believe as of right now, I think he either leads in B WAR or F WAR, which, take that for what you will with a reliever, but still, it's something. I think he has the highest of that out of anybody on the team, position player or pitcher. So for him to have already contributed that much in the first 11 games, and they've used him 5 times already, and I think
Brazoban.
Yeah, and I think today was the first time he got hit. And the only reason he got hit was because it was a wind-aided home run. On a normal day, that ball would have stayed in the yard. I think that's been the most pleasant surprises. Outside of like Danny Young, pretty much every guy that they call upon, I'm like, all right, we'll be okay. He'll get the outs. Now, what I do worry about on the flip side is, this was something we talked about in the previews, is are they going to be able to withstand the workload? Because this kind of also happened in 2021, where the bullpen looked great at the very beginning. And then the problem was they no longer could have even at least once every 5th day, we're only going to have to work 2 innings because Jake's either going to go 7 or 8. And none of the other guys in the rotation really picked up the slack behind it. Well, the problem so far is no one in the rotation has really gone more than 6. I don't have the game logs in front of me, but I don't think Clay Holmes. Well, actually, Clay Holmes did go into the 6th today.
He went. That was his first time getting past the 5th inning. Was today's game.
He pitched much better than his line. That I mentioned the home run that Brazoban gave up. That went on Clay Holmes's record. Pitched a lot better than the numbers will tell you. Again, the win kind of hurt him in total, because I think the 2 runs he gave up in the first also got affected by the win today.
That one ball Soto couldn't catch.
Yeah, it was good to see Clay Holmes get a start like that, because, okay, the spring wasn't entirely a fluke. Like, that is in there. David Peterson was looking good, and then Sunday's a little bit off, but turns out he was sick and then got blurred vision, which explains why his command just completely went. But I'm going to write off that he was fine. Kodai Senga looked better this turn in the rotation, which is good, because the first one you're like, that's closer to the Senga that we saw in the playoffs. And it's like I've said, for this rotation to be its very best, they need Kodai Senga to be the guy that we saw 2 years ago.
Right.
Griffin Jennings looked good. The problem for him is he's ran his pitch counts up. And that's been the thing. It's like, if this rotation can consistently start getting 6 innings, maybe get a 7-inning start once or twice a week, that changes the trajectory of this team, because the bullpen right now clearly has it. But you can't tax this bullpen to the point that we get to July and you start to see the wear. And that's ultimately what happened in 2021. And that was one of the reasons why they faded. If they can keep this bullpen relatively fresh, at least as much as you can in a 162-game season, and I say that knowing that Sean Reed-Foley hasn't come up yet. Dednell Nunez is rehabbing right now in Syracuse. So 2 of their better arms aren't even available at the moment. But if they can keep the bullpen's workload relatively lighter, your bullpen's going to be an important part of the season. But, if you don't overheat the engine by August, you're fine. So this was kind of the problem that the rotation had at the beginning of last year too. It was a lot of times where, hey, the lineup was doing its job. The problem was the bullpen was just handing a lot of these games right back, And part of that had to do with a lot of the starters weren't going. Like Minaya had that problem. Severino had that problem early, and Quintana had that problem too. They got better. And that's it's the one thing that I would like to see this team improve upon, because the lineup has had enough games where you're like, okay, whoever's slumping right now, the weather will warm up and they'll get out of this. And Soto's already doing it. Pete Alonso looks like a brand new player. That's been huge.
Nimmo, I think Soto's protection in the lineup has really, like, I think it has Pete playing like a lot looser.
Yeah, that's okay. I've got this now. Sick.
Yeah,
and that makes me think. I mean, and I think the big news this week with Vlad Jr., which we'll get to, I think may have played a part in this. But I think even just having 11 games worth of this, you can't help but think Pete's mind's been changed, where it's okay. I'm going to leave this. I could just have this in front of me the rest of my career playing here. Well, I already know how to hit. I mean, I don't know if they're negotiating or whatnot. I don't know how any of that works, but I've got to think Pete's mind's at rest a little bit, knowing like, oh, this was what I wanted all along. This is great. I'm going to have an RBI opportunity every time. Let's do this.
Yeah. I mean, if I mean, I'm sure there's definitely more than baseball that I think goes into, long-term decisions like that. But I'm sure that he's probably thinking, obviously he turned down what was it? He turned down like a 3-year extension a couple years ago. Yeah. He turned down the 3 for $90 extension. Probably, I'm sure there's part of him that, I'm sure he'd tell you he doesn't think about it, but let's be real. If you turn down $90 million of anything in your life, you would be, and it didn't work out, you would be thinking about it.
Of course.
But, I think that, from a baseball and a life standpoint, it's like, all right, you get to be in New York, you're at the top, you're playing at the top of a lineup, with, 2 of the best hitters in the game. You have the chance to become the best, pretty much the best Mets power hitter in franchise history. I mean, he's on pace to do that this year as long as he stays healthy and has a normal year, as we discussed. And they've proven that, at least last year, they've proven that, they can legitimately contend. And, now they seem to be more legitimately going for it. I think he's probably thinking, as long as everything on the business side makes sense, like he's probably thinking, this is where I want to be long term. And if he can continue hitting like this and get that type of, play himself into that type, because I kind of overestimated how much the playoff run was going to change people's minds about him. I was like, oh yeah, and like now he's gonna, now he's gonna get like a $200 million deal. But if he hits like that all year and delivers in the playoff, I don't think it's off the table.
And plus, it was announced last week he's going to be a dad too. So I'm sure he probably doesn't want to leave a place where he's settled, a place that he's known for. It's going to be 6-7 years now. Am I going to uproot everything I've known as I'm about to be a dad? Like that's a pretty big thing. And I think the fact that Cohen flew down to see him to seal the deal, I think probably sent that message to him of, hey, look, the GM has to do his job. And that's, hey, look, we can disagree philosophically on that, but as long as I'm running the show, you matter here. And if I've got anything to say about it, you're staying here. And I'm sure that probably put his mind at ease a little bit to know that too, where it's like, okay, where do I really stand with things? And the fact that Cohen was so public about it, like even talking about it at the Fan Fest, where they were booing Stearns, I'm sure that sent a message to Pete of, okay, well, I know I've got people in my corner, and it's not just my teammates. It's not just the people I see every day. The people that sign the checks, like they want me too.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest thing that I've noticed with Pete this year, his opposite field power is back. And that's huge, because when we would talk about, do you want to bring him back and for how long? I said, the most important thing with Pete was, I mean, everyone looks at the home runs and all that, but when he first came up, he was someone that would hit 260 and have an on base of 350, 360, where he would draw walks. And it's okay. Yeah, he's not going to be a guy that hit 320, which is fine. But if you're hitting 50 home runs and you're hitting 260 and you're drawing walks, that is more than enough. And he was someone that used all fields. I think I even said he probably had the best opposite field power of any Met since David Wright. And because that was something David Wright was so good at. And Pete had that for the first few years. And then it really felt like over the past 3 to 4 seasons, that became the anomaly. It felt like he would maybe get one or two opposite field home runs a year. He became exclusively a pull guy.
Yeah, he's got happy.
Yeah, he's got 2 opposite field home runs already this year, and we're not out of April yet. So if that's just a feature now for him, if we're going to get a more complete Pete Alonso at the plate, in addition to the support he's getting, and we're going to see something closer to, I'm not saying he's going to hit 53 home runs or anything, but if we're closer to the 2019 Pete Alonso, who used the field and had that better eye at the plate, that's another thing that changes this offense considerably on top of the Soto factor.
Yeah, and I think, I think that maybe hitting that home run off Devin Williams in the playoffs last year, maybe that was kind of a reminder, like, oh yeah, I can hit home runs here too. I don't have to pull everything. So yeah, it seems like whatever this all the factors at hand with the situation of feeling wanted, having protection in the lineup. Maybe not having pressure on you to be the guy. You have other guys that are, more so going to be the guy, but, you are one of the guys. And, the fact that, everything seems to be like clicking on all cylinders right now. It seems like he is in a pretty good headspace, and his play definitely seems to be reflecting that.
The Milwaukee home run reset him, because I think he did hit over 30 last year, so it wasn't like he was down by his standards, but he didn't have a true down year. But I'd be lying if I didn't see Met fans constantly last year being like, oh, well, here comes the Pete double play. There were a lot of people last year when he came up in that 9th inning where it's, oh, man, he's not going to hit into a double play in his last at bat. Like, there were a lot of people that were out on him.
There's that one sequence of tweets. I'm not sure who tweeted it, but
I know who that is.
Yeah, he thinks it's going to be a WWE moment, doesn't he? Like, thanks for the effort, Lindor, but this will be for nothing.
Give him $200 million.
Yeah, give him $200 million.
Pleasing
that
is
pretty much. That pretty much. That pretty much, that sums it up pretty well. But but I mean,
reset him, because then he was great in the Philly series, and he had a couple of bombs in the Dodgers series.
He did have a couple of bombs in the Dodgers series, and it seems like not only just him, but it does seem like a lot of players that were like hot at the end of the season or hot in the playoffs have kind of like carried it over and have had hot starts to this season. Like Tommy Edman comes to mind. Obviously, Pete's doing what he's doing. But yeah, to your points, I mean, the bullpen's definitely been overachieving. Obviously you have to see how sustainable it is, but it's hard not to feel good about it when everyone's kind of clicking on all cylinders. And I was looking, at least at the B Wars, Huascar Brazoban, he does have a 0.5 B War. It's the tied for second highest on the team. Soto and Alonso both have 0.6. F4 might be a little more
today.
Yeah, I don't know too much about the formulas, but F4 might be a little more like, there might be a little bit more like of a variance with relievers, or it might be a little more like it might be a little more rewarding, I guess you could say.
Yeah,
maybe it wasn't that for, but I didn't check, to be honest, just because I'm a Baseball Reference type of guy. I mean, no disrespect to Fangraphs, Baseball Reference is like home for me. I know how to navigate it. Fangraphs take me a little more time to figure out where everything's at.
And we've seen the offense kind of come out of the doldrums. I didn't sweat too much that they didn't really hit in Houston because, one, it's the first series of the season. The pitchers are always ahead of the hitters at this point in the year. And two,
and
it wasn't as if they were facing bums. They faced 3 good starting pitchers. The Astros do have a good bullpen there. And I know when they got into their bullpen, they were facing Brian Abreu. They faced him multiple times. They faced Hader multiple times. Those aren't bums. So if you don't hit them, that's not the end of the world. Like, yeah, it's not great because it's the first series of the season. You want to see your team come flying out of the gate. It's not always going to be that way. The Miami series, I didn't sweat too much because, like, hey, it's a series in Miami. Weird stuff happens.
Yeah, those always seem to be odd.
But the wheel started turning in the Toronto series, and then it's kept going here against Miami. And I say all that. Francisco Alvarez hasn't played yet. He's going to start rehabbing this week. That's a good, and they've been lucky because Luis Torrens was hitting really well in his place. He's missed the last 3 games because he's had a forearm issue. So they're on their 3rd string catcher right now, and Hayden Sanger's been good enough. And then they're getting nothing from second base right now because L.A. Acuna's hitting 158, and Brett Beatty's hitting worse than that. It might be the end of the line for Brett Beatty. It's
he at least
we were fooled. Fell for it again award.
Yeah, he at least might have to. It might be he might need his number 22 back.
Yeah, it's
or maybe I don't know what Juan Soto bought him or did for him for the number, but maybe he's enjoying the new whip a little too much. I don't know. Beatty needs to.
Someone said, the tweet I saw was like,
he needs to drive back to Syracuse.
The tweet I saw was like, man, everyone thought Juan Soto was just being a good teammate, giving him a truck. He was actually setting him up for his next job with Uber, which like there's no lies right now. That's It might be time to play the Willie Jones from Friday speech.
It was actually just like a parting gift from Major League Baseball. So, good on him for that. But obviously, and I'm sure Acuna, he'll get it together at some point. But obviously not the best start to the season for him. Second base is kind of a black hole, but I do believe I heard that I heard Jeff McNeil is also like going to be starting rehab soon too. So, you would hope that provides a little bit of relief. Not that you're really going to be counting on Jeff McNeil, but hopefully it's at least it can't be worse.
I know the floor is going to get raised a little bit with him.
Yeah, like. You'll at least be at replacement level instead of having a negative WAR, under 100 hitter. So nowhere to go but up once you get McNeil back and once you get Alvarez back. But you got to be encouraged with what Torrens has done so far. And as far as the pitching goes, it's like obviously. It's a lot. I think it's doing a lot better than people thought. I mean, even dating back to, you've only lost 3 games, but it seems like those games you lost, it was really just that you weren't, really the issue was just that like you weren't scoring. It wasn't like you really haven't had a game yet where a pitcher's gotten like blown up badly or anything like that. So, even in these early starts where, Clay Holmes hasn't really gotten past the 5th inning until today, he's still like, he's still treading water in those starts. He's not getting, he's not going out there and getting embarrassed. It's just, it does seem like, their pitch counts are going a little higher than you'd probably like, which is obviously causing their starts to be a little shorter, which is, going to be a little more taxing on the bullpen in the long run.
Even the game that Senga lost, the one game we've lost since the opening series was in Miami, and that's because we had 2 errors. And that was one where Senga's like, well, that's my fault because I let them put the ball in play, and Lindor was the one that committed the errors, and he was like, Well, no, but me and Kodai are boys, and I'm supposed to be the leader, and he did his job. He induced a ground ball, and I booted it. That's on me. So, like, even that, Senga didn't really pitch that badly in the Miami game. He just got hurt by his defense. So, like you said, there's no one game where, they got smoked 12-1. That game was over in the third inning. You just you chalk that one up to the game. They haven't even had one of those yet. Knock on wood.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you'll probably get one eventually, but I think you got to be encouraged by, obviously you got to be encouraged by what you've seen so far. Yes, I mean they're on this six game winning streak, and you got another game coming up tomorrow afternoon. We'll both be playing at 1:00 or 1:10 p.m. tomorrow. You got Tyler Megill taking the mound tomorrow against the Marlins. And then you're off Thursday, and then you got series against then you got who do you got? You got
the Zombie game.
Yeah, you got the Athletics of Sacramento should be in Oakland.
We will face Luis Severino on Sunday. That's going to break my heart.
Oh man, that's gonna be tough. And then you got the Twins after that. So yeah, I'd say that the Mets are, they've put themselves in a pretty good position early, and
that'll be a good test because we get Joe Ryan to start that series, and then it's Bailey Ober and Chris Paddock after that. But I'm interested to see as the bats have gotten better since the Houston series. I think the game we lost in Miami with Senga, that was against Sandy Alcantara. We were supposed to face him this series, and then he's on paternity leave. But to go out and face another, Joe Ryan is considered a frontline guy. I'm interested to see how that goes. Also, shout outs to Juan Soto, to Lindor, and Starling Marte, all doing elite tampering already to get Sandy Alcantara to New York. I love it. Juan Soto's been a Met for 10 whole games, and he's out here tampering like this. That's a guy that'll die for the cause. I love it.
Yeah, for $800 million, you better die for the cause, and you better be tampering and putting those recruiting skills to the
but after 10 games, that's the impressive part. Marte's been here a little bit. I get that.
Yeah, Starling Marte, it has been a minute for him, and who knows how much longer Starling Marte will even really be around. I don't know his exact contract, but yeah, I mean, it's hard to.
So this is the last year of his deal, and I think if we were going to trade for Alcantara, he's probably the guy that goes to make the salary match. Obviously, the prospects would be the main part of
real. He would be like the
salary have to match. He makes the most sense.
Yeah. If you have to get money off the books, and if they want all right, this is a major league starter, maybe he's not an everyday starter for the Mets, but for a team like the Marlins, this is an everyday starter. Now a veteran guy, you have a young, you have a young rebuilding team. So, this is someone who can, kind of teach guys the ropes. And I think he played for the Marlins.
He did
already, didn't he? Yeah. So
the COVID year, I believe.
Yeah. Maybe he, maybe he enjoyed the lack of restrictions there during that time, and he just wants to go back.
Hey, got them to the playoffs.
Yeah. The Marlins did go to the playoffs in that COVID year. I think they won a playoff series or two.
They did. They ended the Cubs as we knew them.
Yep. Yeah. They put the Cubs potential dynasty to bed, and instead just made it, hey, you got your 1-108. So congratulations.
Which that also brought back the annoying, the Marlins have never lost a postseason series. Okay, all right. And then the Phillies a couple years later, it's okay, they've never lost a postseason series in front of Finn. All right, that's enough. That's enough.
Yeah, we can so we can put all that to bed. Any other final thoughts on the Mets and the season, the starts of the season they've had before we get to our more around the league's topics and segments of our episode.
One, if Miami is offering Sandy Alcantara, they should be calling. I know he's about to be 30, but that's, and it's been a constant theme since the Soto signing. You've said when you give the guy the largest contract in the history of sports, and you just had the year that you did, you're saying, hey, we're going for it.
Yep.
You have a recent Cy Young winner that is out there that's available, and can pitch in the NL East, can pitch in your park because he's done it several times. And it wasn't like that was just a one-year fluke. Sandy Alcantara was very good before that. So this.
Yep.
And like we said, the one thing the Mets are missing is maybe Kodai Senga's that number one type, and we just haven't seen him do it for a contending team, which 2023 wasn't his fault. But I know Sandy Alcantara can be the number one for a playoff team. I've seen that happen. He's that guy.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, that changes the dynamic of your rotation a lot, where you have, when everyone's healthy, a front three of Alcantara, Senga, Minaya. All of a sudden, everyone's role changes just that little bit more. All of a sudden, you have a real deep rotation. And not even for quality, but just if everyone moves down a rung, like if David Peterson's now your 4 or 5, or Clay Holmes is your 4 or 5, all of a sudden things look very different.
Yeah, it takes it takes a little bit of the burden, a little bit of the pressure off of those guys, and
that's also a guy that has led the league in innings pitched. And we've talked about having a guy that can go out there and at least once a week, it's okay. Well, the bullpen's not going to have to throw 4 or 5 tonight. They're only going to need 2 at most, or 3 at most. I think that would be big too. And my other quick thought on the year, we did touch on this down the stretch last year. They have kept the Grimace seat up in the upper deck and right, or the corner in Citi Field, and I'm glad they did.
Yeah, I was watching some of the game today, and they showed the Grimace seat at one point. I think it's a cool little nod to the 2024 season, and you can always, purple is a good color, and you'll always have that one purple seat, and it can be a story that people can tell their grandchildren about Grimace one day. So the legend lives on. Now Grimace is on to bigger and better things in the Minecraft movie and that realm of. By the
way, they added purple sleeves to the City Connects. It's big heat. Yeah.
Indeed. And so speaking of big heat, we'll be back after this quick commercial break. Shout outs to Crown Nectar. But we'll be back after this quick pause, and we'll discuss some of the recent City Connect heat or lack thereof, and amongst other things. So thank you for tuning in to our Yankees and Mets coverage, and we'll be back with another video soon.